the project started when we were still in high school, as it developed from a talk that our professor Valnöfer organized for us, where Martin Rabanzo presented us with one of the bigger problems that they had at the time, which was the inconsistency of some of the data that they received from their APIs, specifically APIs that utilize sensors that could be faulty with problems of battery or harsh weather conditions. So here's a graph of the problem they presented us. It's basically the data of a sensor that monitors traffic in a specific area. And as you can see, there are some gaping holes in the graph that obviously look out of place. So this could be due to the sensor being faulty. And the problem is that usually when a sensor actually fails to deliver the data, it takes weeks, if not months, till someone realizes that the data that should have arrived didn't actually come in, because usually the process that evaluates it is automated. And therefore, that was the problem that we tried to fix with Apisense, which is a program that we developed for the past 2 years on and off. So the solution to the problem of not realizing that the data has been faulty for quite a while is to automate the process of testing if we receive data and if said data is valid, if it's in a range of that would make sense. Because, for example, when a temperature sensor returns values in the hundreds of degrees, there's obviously something wrong with it. So one of the main aspects that we tried to focus on was to make it as lightweight as possible, which means that it shouldn't take up a lot of resources from the computer, but also not from the human. So it should almost automatically tell you when there is a mistake and what happened.
Yes, so we developed a strategy composed of 3 core components. First, we have definitions. Those are files that tell Apisense how the data should look, where to get the data from, and many other details that we need to generate test cases. These definitions get turned into test cases that get then evaluated by validators. The test cases allow for flexibility, meaning that we have a templating system that allows the introduction of variables that can generate from one definition file many test cases depending on parameters that the user can decide. And the validators are the core point of Apisense. They are the source of the flexibility of our project. The cool thing about validators is that they are language agnostic, meaning validators for us is just a program taking in some input we generate and giving us output telling us if the data is okay or not. This allows for great customization because obviously the developer and the user can write their tests and their validation logic in any language they like and can just provide us with a mean of executing that validation logic. And we then collect every bit of information generated by validators and obviously also by our program itself, because we check for common use cases like status code and response schema, because this is something everyone needs. But then the specific needs tailored to the use case, the user can define and write up whatever he wants. We simplify this process by providing, and these are increasing over time. We started with 2 languages and we'll add many others in the future with templates. Those are basically just a skeleton for, as I said, many different languages where it is easier to then just write the validation function and everything else is just pre-made for you. And then the other cool thing is that validators also build a community and can be community driven, because if you have a use case that is not very specific but is broader, validators obviously can be reused, shared between members of the community, and ease the distribution of simple validation. We also want to introduce a roadmap to get you a bit curious about our project and maybe contribute or check it out. We are currently working in 3 categories. First is UI UX, because we also have a really big focus on user experience, because as Christian said, our focus is also to make it easy to set up and to use and not be a hassle with a lot of microservices and databases that have to be set up, a lot of configuration. It has to be a streamlined, easy process. So we are looking forward to implementing a web UI, desktop and mobile clients, and extend our alert infrastructure to allow more than just email alerts. Then for validation, to ease the creation of validators even more, because it's the core part powering our project, we want to introduce a domain-specific language that could then allow developers to easily create with a simple scripting language validation logic without having to touch any programming language at all, any more complex programming language. And allow external data fetchers, meaning we could extend our project to not only work for REST APIs, but then for data providers in general, and even more extending the scope, still by maintaining a lightweight experience, because everything is abstracted away from the user. Then we want to improve our integrated API with authentication features, meaning it could also be of more interest to enterprise. And then obviously any idea the community might have, because we welcome issues, feature requests, and contributions, because we want to grow the community and the project itself. Here's a QR code that leads you to our website, and I want to take the remaining 6.5 minutes that we have to take in any questions you might have regarding our project, or regarding a specific aspect of functionality, and any other type of questions. We should have a microphone, so you can just raise your hand or whatever, and we will provide you a microphone.
Where? Thank you very much. Where was the question? Okay.
Hi. Thank you. It's definitely interesting. Of course, I haven't checked the details of the project yet, so my question may be already answered by your documentation. But are you planning any support for the Prometheus stacks when it comes to the alerting part? Because I feel that, at least I work for companies that use all the whole Grafana Prometheus stack for the alerting part, and it will save you time to tackle existing alerting/dispatching solution rather than just developing your own UI. Just because I hate front-end development, but that's just right? So I think that also other people hate that, but I know it's not the case. Thank you.
Yes, we don't have a big alert infrastructure yet, because it was due to the project just starting as a school project and maturing in the last year or so. We haven't put much work into that. So it is one of the areas that still has a lot of maturity to achieve. But our plan was to support, I thought about such dispatching messaging protocols and platforms, because obviously it's much easier to integrate the project into an existing infrastructure if you can just plug it into some other notifying, monitoring services, instead of then having to set up email alerts and whatever. It's obviously something that is important, yes.
Any other question here? Sorry.
Is the system able to learn? Or do you have to write these templates all by hand? So can it learn from an existing sensor which is known working? So
currently there is nothing implemented that allows it to learn from similar sensors, because the general idea was that the user defines the values, or like the basically the validator, like how to differentiate wrong data from like what's supposed to be received. And usually when there are like different sensors that are supposed to return like similar data where they could learn from from one another, usually the same template can be applied to both of them, even if you have to make minor alterations. There are like templates that you can use right now to speed up that creation process, but it is definitely something that we may look into in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions? No questions?
I have a question.
There is a question.
Very interesting project. Thank you. I have a question about the integration. I haven't looked at documentation, so forgive me. With Chrome and timers, how do you define, let's say, how long do you check? Is that done via the user interface?
No,
Let's say I have 5 things that I want to check. One is every week, another is every day.
Currently, we have a daemon that does the checks. The checks can also be started manually with a command line interface, so you can just do a one-shot validation. But generally, it's recommended to use the daemon. That is a process that runs on a given cron expression. But as of now, the cron expression steers the daemon. So basically, the daemon validates each definition file at a given interval, and it's currently not possible to have different intervals for different definitions. But it's something we might look into, but it kind of raises the complexity because we have to split tasks and have different processes running for each definition.